friend said, Pam, you're kind of good at this. This might be something you should do. To which I thought was very absurd because I was working in a union job at a factory, making the most money of my life as a woman with a high school education and what would be considered low-wage skills. So I tended to work at entry-level jobs. I ran a cleaning service at one point. I've been a cashier. I worked at Carnival one summer. I have just always had these entry-level jobs and not making very much money, but doing okay. You know, I was married. The man I was married to, you know, was the primary breadwinner, so it worked for us. But then I got more and more into art, and I had my first art show at a coffee shop. Anybody know Arbor Lodge in North Portland? It's been there a long time. A friend of mine owned it, and she said, you have a lot of art now, Pam. You need to do an art show, and I need an artist this month at my coffee shop. So she helped me hang my art. I had never done it before. I winged it on my prices, which is always a challenge for every creative. How do you price your work, especially the first time? So of course it was priced ridiculously low, but that's okay. And I had 16 pieces in that coffee shop, and I'm not exaggerating, I sold 14 of them. A big part was because the prices were damn good, you know. But people liked the art. I made over $1,000 that month selling that art. Wow. And a friend said to me, I think you missed your calling. And to which I don't think I missed my calling. I wasn't ready. It wasn't time. I was living my life. And I kept working at the factory and making art as a hobby and on the side. And every now and then I would do these little things. Started to figure out that I could teach a little bit. But the factory life that I lived was very demanding. A lot of 7-day work weeks, a lot of mandatory overtime. I was making the most money I've ever made in my life so far. But it was crushing me. I didn't realize how much creativity had become an integral practice in my life, and I didn't have much space for community because I worked so much. I didn't have much space to get out to nature because I was working so much, and I certainly didn't have much space for art making. And then my marriage ended peacefully, not because of the job, but it just had an expiration date after 28 years, and I found myself in my mid-50s for the first time in my adult life being 100% self-determining. And you know what I mean, when we're married and we love our spouses, when the partnership is in alignment and we work together and negotiate, and that's what you do when you're in a partnership. But as a solo woman, I had no one to answer to. What the do I want to do in my life? And I worked at that factory, and I leaned into the discontentment of the job and realized I could make my peace and stay at my well-paying job where I could take epic vacations when I had scheduled vacation time. Otherwise, they owned my time. Or maybe I need a new story in my life. And that's where I leaned into this, what do I want to do? If my fairy godmother showed up with that wand, what do I want to do with my one life and the years that are remaining? And I realized the life that really called to me was a life centered on creativity, community, connecting to nature. And what are we doing right now? What are we doing right now? That was 2019. I submitted my resignation to Nabisco, where I was a professional mixer. I'm a production mixer. I made Oreos for America and Chips Ahoy. And you're welcome. And I submitted my resignation on April Fool's Day 2019, and I posted on my socials, I would be a fool if I did not go after that, which pulses inside of me. And let me tell you, I was not a proven art seller. I was not a proven art teacher. It's very different. When it's a hobby, it's a hobby, but now I was putting everything into it to become my livelihood. And I made a lot of mistakes. I don't recommend going the path I went, but it was the path for me to make that big, bold leap of faith. And it's been a messy journey, but there's magic in the mess. And now I am a full-time creative. I support myself. I pay my bills. And I have had the honor of impacting hundreds of lives over the last 5 years. Art is all over the world. And now I'm shifting from having a focus on being a full-time art seller to really leaning into being more teaching and a teaching artist and an educator. And so I resigned from Portland Saturday Market, the iconic Portland Saturday Market, where I enjoyed almost 3 seasons of being an art seller there. I love that market, met people from all over the world, met some of you there. And now I'm focused on teaching. I'll be developing more online education in order to have a life that is more fluid so that I can move and be on the go. I began to feel like I need to go beyond my zip code and beyond the markets that I was working in my area. And that vision is coming to life as I leave tomorrow. I'll be gone for 8 weeks, and part of this time away is 2 weeks in Utah, where I'll be working on a special commission in the home of a patron I met at Saturday Market, and her husband passed away, or her ex-husband, the father of her children, and they had a friendship, and she's asked me to make a very special commission about him that will include some of his ashen remains in the painting. And I've been asked to do that before, so I'm okay with it. I've researched it. Very sacred, creative work, as you can imagine. And so I'll be there in her home for 2 weeks. And then after that, I will be an artist in residence at the Desert National Wildlife Center, which is outside Las Vegas, which is where I grew up. That's a big, long story, because when I was a teenager, I worked one summer at that refuge in the Youth Conservation Corps, participated in rehabilitation work for that particular refuge. And now 40 years later, they have an artist in residency program. And when I found out, I was like, oh, hell yeah, I'm applying. And I got it. So I'll be there for 4 weeks so I'll just leave tomorrow. I have all kinds of stuff going on, and I'll be in the desert for 8 weeks. And all of this life I just described to you began by paying attention to this discontentment that I couldn't resolve and asking myself, what do I really want to do with my life? Because the years in front of me, man, they're shorter now than the years behind me. What do I really want to do? And I did that thing that we read about, began to imagine it, began to make decisions, and now, I just turned 60, and I am a full-time creative. I live my life centered on creativity, community, and connecting to nature. So, there's my TED Talk. Very nice. All right. So we're working on getting that color in there. If you have, thank you. There is, if you have an area, you should have some areas that are dry on your painting. So go ahead and do a little glazing, do some splattering, do some drips. If you start at the top with drips, you can really get that nice effect coming all the way down your paper. Remember, some of your papers will pick up pigment. If you have not played with black, I highly recommend it. Black splatters especially really beautifully on top of color. It also adds a nice smoky effect on top of colors that you already have. So I am a fan of introducing black. So don't forget black in there. If you mix brown with orange, you get a really cool color combination that's earthy, browns and oranges. I don't recommend mixing orange with blue. That'll make a different kind of brown. And, also known as mud. However, some people do like the mud. So if you're looking for more mud, mix blue with orange. What were the two you said before that? If you do brown and orange together, it'll bring a nice lightness. Because brown's kind of, right? It's kind of But if you add yellow to it, add orange to it, it'll give your brown, it'll become more dynamic and less Same with your, if you do your purples and reds together, you're going to get, those are the two most vibrant colors in this palette. So if you mix those two together, you're going to get a powerhouse of color wherever you put it. So have fun, go against what you usually do. My art makers in here, you know what you like. Surprise yourself today. Surprise yourself. Do something you haven't done before.